So the first lady I'd like you to meet is Mrs. Alma Rota. Please, lots of applause. Alma is the publisher of Rolling Stone magazine France, doing a wonderful job. Thank you, Alma, for coming. Second person to come on stage is Mrs. Sarah Noble. Thank you so much for being here, dear Sarah. Head of Global Engagement at Caux Initiatives of Change Foundation. And the third is not a lady, but he's replacing a lady. Mrs. Sophia Rosenzweig should have been with us, but this gentleman is talking for her because he's the head of choir, Voices Without Border. Voix sans frontières. Tons of applause for Mr. Mayiha Ta Nguidjoe Nyemek. Merci, monsieur. This last roundtable is all about art for peace education. And here you have wonderful educators who are each working in their expertise in order to deliver messages of peace. Let's listen first introductions, and let's have Alma first introducing herself and telling us a little bit more about how you mix editorial activism together with peace education.
Thank you for welcoming me to speak today. My name is Alma Rota. I'm the publisher of Rolling Stone France since 2020, a cultural media rooted in music, freedom of expression, and social consciousness. For those who knows the magazine, it's been founded in the United States in 1967. In the middle of war, civil unrest, and profound social change in the United States, founded by Jan Wenner, with the support of artists like John Lennon and Yoko Ono, and the magazine became a counterculture platform for political and artistic freedom. And at Rolling Stone France, we carry that legacy with pride. Through our pages, we give space to artists who challenge power, question norms, and speak up for the voiceless. We don't write manifesto, we amplify voices. That is for us what Guya was saying is editorial activism, in the positive sense, of course. And I deeply believe that art is a soft power with a hard impact. That cultural media, when free and independent, becomes a bridge between art and action. Beyond my editorial role at Rolling Stone, I also serve on the board of the French Union for Cultural Press, where I try and advocate for recognition and survival of independent cultural journalism. And because, for me, art becomes a collective memory, it doesn't just reflect the world, but it has the power to transform it. And as one of great artists that I really like, called Brian Eno, would say, all music has political dimension because it suggests a way of being.
Thank you very much. And I want to add that Alma is one of the very, very few, which is not the only one, publisher of French magazine here in France. So I really want you to give lots of applause to this wonderful lady. Sarah Noble, thank you so much for being with us. You are doing also a wonderful job at Caux Initiatives of Change. Could you introduce yourself a little bit, please, for us?
Great. Thank you so much, Gila, and it's a great pleasure to be here in UNESCO today, representing the Caux Initiatives of Change Foundation, which is based in Switzerland, but it's a global people's movement. So now, for more than 75 years, Caux has served as a space to bring people together for reconciliation, dialogue, and renewal. You may not have heard of it, so I'll just explain a little bit. It's perched in the mountains above Montreux, Switzerland, where is the historic Caux Palace, which is our dialogue center. And we have hosted thousands of change makers, peace builders, artists, young people, and educators from around the world. The palace itself is a hotel, and it was built in the 1900s in 2 years by the famous architect Ami Chassé and Eugene Joust, and at the time it was one of the most luxurious and beautiful hotels ever built in Switzerland. But the challenge was global conflict, and the world wars turned the hotel into a deficit, and it had to close. So in 1946, it was purchased by 100 Swiss families and given as a gift to the Initiatives of Change Foundation to serve as a home for the whole world to come together to talk about the values that are needed to avoid a third world war. Now, the Initiatives of Change is built on a very simple but profound principle, which is that we first need to change ourselves, which will then help change the world around us. By changing ourselves, it can have a ripple effect of the people around us, on our communities, on our schools, and on our countries, because change doesn't only happen out here, but it really starts here in the heart. And art and peace has been a part of our DNA for many, many years, and we are restarting a program around arts and peace. And to give you a sense of why this is important for us, I'll just read with you a small quote and explain it. So Karim Wasfi is an Iraqi maestro. He was the head of the Iraqi Philharmonic Orchestra, and he's also known for playing his cello in areas that have been affected by terrorist attacks. And he says, "I have conducted orchestras across concert halls and through the wreckage of war zones. I have stood on the ruins of conflicts, cello in hand, and played merely not to perform, but to reclaim space for humanity. In the aftermath of bombs, in the silence of grief, it becomes clear. Art is not a luxury. Culture is not a decoration. They are lifelines." So next month, we're bringing together artists like Karim Wasfi and peace builders to learn from each other, and I'll tell you more about that shortly.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for those very inspiring. Yeah, you can applaud also. Sarah is doing a wonderful job in terms of peace education through art. Let's listen to you, dear Mayiha Ta. You are the choir director, the head of choir of Voices Without Borders that was created by Sophie Rosenzweig. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about Voices Without Borders, please.
Thank you for having me, first of all. And wonderful ladies, what you just did, it wonderful. So thank you for sharing that. So Voices Without Borders was born, let's say, due to a response to an event that happened to Sophie while she was in a settlement camp in Yumbe. She was profoundly astounded by the sound of silence she experienced while in this refugee camp. So she decided to do something while she came back to France, because she said that the only thing that mattered to her while she was in the camp was singing. And she realized that while she was humming in that camp, the children gathered around her and the women gathered around her, and it was as if the sound of hope was alive again. So she came back to France and she called her longtime collaborator named Frédéric Setozo, and they decided to call a lot of singers in France and do kind of workshops and masterclasses in Uganda. The first one was issued in 2018, and we had a contact in Uganda that it was an NGO working to rehabilitate the former child soldiers to the society they once terrorized. And in that rehabilitation center, you also had orphans and other children victims of the war. And in 3 years, we managed to have, I think, over 250 children that all came together, because you have to know that they didn't talk to each other. They were experiencing a lot of things that were similar because they were all victims of war, but none of them were talking to each other. And we decided through music, to help them rediscover their inner voices through their singing voices. And I'll talk more into that deeply afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much here too. Very, very inspiring. So we have experience from post-traumatic trauma, we have those experience of institution highlighting peace education through arts, and of course we have this notion of publishing. Let's go back to you, dear Alma. Could you give us some very concrete example of what you're calling artistic expression to promote social rights, especially when it comes to a magazine for values of peace?
Well, at the magazine we don't create special issues on human rights, but it's part of the DNA of the magazine, and we weave the human rights into the very fabric of the editorial line. All over the world, all the editions of Rolling Stone are defending dignity, freedom, and justice, because it should be constant. So every month, we highlight artists who turn their music and their art into political action, who defend the environment, who speak for women, minorities, farmers, refugees, and youth, and many other human rights. As we're in France, I'm going to speak about the latest artists that we covered, like the French influential metal band called Gojira, who was at the Olympic game, whose music is a powerful cry for climate justice, but also a band called the Inspector Clouseau, two self-proclaimed rock farmers who fight through music and agroecology to defend a sustainable and independent way of life. And in our last issue, for example, we published the work from Sebastião Salgado, and also report about fighting for Native American rights as well. So, of course, on a personal level, my battle is to defend access to independent cultural press in France, because without that diversity of media and voices, and for me, there's no human rights, you know. So it's very important for me to educate and publish these artists, because when artist speaks but no one listens, it's just art that suffers. It's democracy. So for me, art expresses human rights, but cultural media give them space, echo, and visibility. That's why I see my role as a publisher not as a filter, but as a loudspeaker. It's not just to inform, it's to create resonance and emotional connection between the readers and all those artists risking everything to sing, dance, and exist freely. That's where art becomes more than art. It becomes testimony. It becomes a form of truth-telling that no censorship can fully silence. And as a cultural publisher, my role is not to neutralize that, it's to amplify it. Because I believe that every piece of art that speaks the truth is a small act of human rights in motion.
Thank you very much. Yes, we know that when we are forbidding people to perform art, it says something about the society. I'm thinking about the voice of women, for example, that are forbidden to be heard in Afghanistan. So this, as you said, the power of annihilating art in a society, it says a lot about not only freedom of expression, but the power of balancing political ideas. Thank you very much for reminding that to us. I would like to hear Mayiha Ta and tell us a little bit more about what you are doing with the children when it comes to ground work.
All right. I'm sorry because it might take a little bit longer than 3 minutes. I'm sorry.
Don't worry. We are all here.
So, like I stated before, when we met the children in 2018 in that rehabilitation center, we realized that they didn't know each other. They were all victims of war, but they didn't know their story, their backstory. And a lot of them were afraid to speak. One little girl was always looking at me she was always, her head bowed down, and I said, Sharon, look at me and tell me what is your name and speak louder. She was afraid of the men. She was afraid of the other children. She was afraid of everybody. So during those workshops, we in general, we had 2 weeks of workshops per year. We went and we tried to make them understand that their arts and their person matters, while giving them, let's say, motivational speech, but other things as well. We managed to make them write a song. They wrote a song called Children of Peace, and this song actually was their first step to discover themselves and realizing that they all had the same story. One of the lyrics saying, nothing is impossible for an African child. I'm inspired, you're empowered. If you can do, then I can too. We can do, so y'all can too. And I always said, those words came.
Beautiful.
Those words came from children that were suffering. They were in pain. They were scared. They felt like nobody was there for them.
They were soldiers, no?
And
Also?
indeed, a lot of them were child soldiers as well. So in that area where you have child soldiers, orphans, all the children that were abandoned and stuff, they are all figuring out life together, coming together to create a piece of heart because they needed to be healed. They needed healing, they needed understanding, and they all managed to create that together. So their goal is to create an anthem for all the children around the world. And funny story, they came to France, I think it was 2 years ago, and it was when the whole entire Ukraine thing was happening, and they realized that, oh my God, we are not the only people going through war and going through, I say, hardships of life. And they said, we wished we could. They said, Uncle Mayiha Ta. I said, yeah. They said, we wish we could make this song popular for other children around the world to be able to make their voice heard again like ours. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sarah, you spoke to us about this program that is coming and happening in May. Give us a little bit more example concretely about type of programs that you are heading, please.
Thank you, Gila. So in May, we are having what we're calling our first Arts and Peace Encounters. So we're bringing together peace builders, change makers, academics, and artists to learn from each other, to see what they can explore, not just to perform or to talk or to share, but actually to co-create, to see how arts can learn from peace building and peace building can learn from artists. There is the peace building pioneer John Paul Lederach, who has said that building peace is not simply a technical task, it's an act of creative imagination. So his work highlights that peace building isn't just a technical exercise, but it's really a deeply human and creative endeavor, and that links very much to the artistic process. So we're really hoping that by bringing artists and peace builders together, we can create something different, we can imagine something different, and we can then share this experience with all of you.
Well, you were talking about how to make peace within yourself and how to make peace into relationship. Will it be a topic like this that will be mentioned during this program, for example?
Yes, so the program is 2.5 days. It's from the 12th to the 14th of May. We're very delighted to have the UNESCO Artist for Peace, Gila Clark-Jesus, participate.
Pleasure.
And we will be looking at inner reflection. There'll be quiet time. We'll be led by some Indigenous leaders from Canada in a greeting of the day ceremony. There'll be time for workshops, for creative exploration. So it's not a typical conference. It's more of an encounter and a gathering and a place in a space, as I was mentioning earlier, the Caux Palace, which is a beautiful place, but it also has had so many personal stories of transformation happen inside of it. So it has an energy. It's a place for people to come together to make this change, which is what we really need in these times that we're living in today.
Thank you very much. So basically all the details of the program will be on the website of Co-Initiative Foundation. I strongly advise you to have a look on this program that is really aligned with what we're doing today for art and human dignity. It's time for our wonderful panelists to express themselves regarding a message, a very symbolic message they want to address while being at UNESCO for this World Art Day. And I will, of course, ask our dear Alma to begin with an open remark to the world.
I would like to start by a quote from the American poet and civil rights activist Maya Angelou. Art is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Her words resonate deeply with what I believe, because when art disappears, it's not comfort we lose, it's memory, it's resistance, and it's hope. In times of crisis, oppression, or disinformation, art becomes a shelter, a a weapon, a healing force, and above all, a reminder that we are still alive, still human, still free to imagine another future. Let's be clear, art is not peace by default. Art can be provocative, disruptive, disobedient, and that's precisely why it is essential to peace, because it teaches us to confront, to reflect, and to transform. So at Rolling Stone, we believe in transmission through our editorial work. We strive to pass on not only the cultural heritage that's shaped us, but also to shine a light on the new generation of artists who are reshaping it, because defending arts means defending the future and the freedom of those who will create it next. So my hope today is that we continue to protect artistic freedom, especially from the younger generation, that we don't confuse algorithm with culture or silence with stability. Without arts, there's no critical thinking. Without critical thinking, peace becomes just another illusion, because peace doesn't just need treaties or reports, it needs storytellers. So let's keep creating, publishing, painting, writing, dancing, singing, and resisting together.
Beautiful, thank you.
Thank you.
Very, very powerful message. Can I ask Sarah, what is your message today for World Art Day?
Thank you. So we are living a very dark moment in our history where conflict and the threats of so-called strongmen are crowding out the sources of creation and the people who are building peace and understanding. But the message today is that even in these heavy times, there are threads of hope. And one of those threads is the arts. At Co-Initiative of Change Foundation, we believe that change happens with the heart, and obviously the arts touch our hearts, our minds, and our bodies. The arts awaken empathy, and they offer us not just beauty, but vision and imagination, and an ability to see beyond ourselves and into the lives of others. So on this World Arts Day, my message is, let us embrace the power of creation and imagination. The work of peace isn't just for diplomats and decision makers, and it lives in each and every one of us. So let us honor the artists as peacemakers. Let us honor creation as an act of courage. And let us use the power of imagination and build a more compassionate world. Because peace isn't just a dream, it's a daily act of creation.
Thank you, here too, beautiful message. And specifically, I want to underline this notion of diplomacy do not belong to diplomats. It is true today, we are talking about artistic diplomacy, we're talking about cultural diplomacy, and those are very important when it comes to thinking the world differently and not giving the privilege to diplomats to also shape the future of the world. Thank you, Sarah. Our dear Uncle Mayiha Ta will be the last to talk on this roundtable. What is your message, dear?
My message is pretty simple. Peace begins within. Before we can heal the world, we must first heal ourselves. Peace is not just the absence of conflicts. It is the presence of stillness, of contentment, of wholeness deep within our souls. Art, especially music, speaks where words fall short. It reaches into the cracks of our brokenness and begins the work of restoration. It gives us space to reflect, to feel, to remember who we are and who we long to become. If we want a world filled with peace, we must be willing to do the inner work, to face our wounds, to listen to our hearts, to be honest with our pain, and allow healing to begin. May art continue to stir hearts, question minds, and bring souls together, because when the soul finds peace, the world begins to follow. Let the music play, let the healing begin.
Thank you. And I also want to highlight that Sophie Rosenzweig, who's founder of Voices Without Borders, is saying that she is a poor singer. Meaning that you don't need to consider yourself being an artist to use art for social reconnection. You don't need to call yourself an artist or to be called an artist in order to use art to feel better. And I think this is also the message we would like to deliver, especially when it comes to peace education. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, and I'm going to turn to Uncle Mayiha Ta for you to sing us this song that has been written by all those wonderful children in order to talk about union, about peace education. Would you be okay to give us this chance to hear it again?
Okay.
Okay, so
maybe,
let's all
maybe a little extract
close our
notes.
eyes. Yes,
Okay.
that's a very,
Okay.
unpredicted, but let's all trying to, get into this moment of connection.
Okay. We are the children of peace for a better tomorrow, and we will be okay if we do our best today. We are the children of peace for a better tomorrow, and we will be okay if we do our best today. Nothing is impossible for an African child. I'm inspired, so you empowered. If you can do, then I can too. We can do, so you can too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for this wonderful roundtable on